So we just created a Django API backend. Now let's actually deploy this to the web so you all can have access to it and you can talk to it and all that stuff. So with that, we're going to be using a service called Heroku. If you haven't, so Heroku is just a way you can host applications on. I think it was it bought by Microsoft or Salesforce? Can't remember. Oh, Salesforce. Yeah. So it was bought by Salesforce a few years ago. Here are all my existing apps. Yeah. So when we get our Django project ready to deploy to the web, there's a few things we have to do to get it to work. And this is where like DevOps comes in, and everything's very finicky. So you have to follow everything to a T for it to work. Because if it doesn't work, you're not going to necessarily know why it doesn't work. It's just going to be like, hey, there's nothing showing up. But there are the docs are pretty straightforward. So like deploying Django to Heroku. Real Python. I'll go to Heroku Dev Center. We also have the notes here. Expected files, Python, working with Django. So configure apps with Django. Okay. So you can read through here, which is the official documentation, or we have it on our tutorial as well. But the first thing you need to do is inside of your Django app. So on the same level, so I list everything out on the same level as your manage.py file. We're going to create a proc file. Proc file. Touch proc file. So we have a proc file, and this is specific to Heroku. So if you read through this, at the very top of our proc file, we're going to add this web Gunicorn, the name of our project. So ours is called Wine API, like so. And that's it for right now. So we created our proc file. Now, if we look down here, it says this proc file requires Gunicorn, the production web server that we recommend for Django applications. For more information, see this. But next, we're going to have to pip install Gunicorn. So I'm going to pip install Gunicorn. I'm still inside my virtual environment. So it says already installed. Great. Cool. All right, let's look at, well, let's get rid of that. All right. Be sure to add Gunicorn requirements. Let's keep going. Yeah. I'm just not going to follow this. I'm going to follow our tutorial. So the next thing we need to do is we just installed Gunicorn. Next, we're going to pip install Django Heroku. And this is a way for when we deploy, we can interact with Heroku. So I did pip install Django Heroku, like so. Now I installed Django Heroku. Now in my API settings directory, I'll get rid of that. At the very top of my Django project settings file, at the very top, it has to be the first one, the very first line. I'm going to import Django _ Heroku at the very top, first line. And at the very last line, I'm going to run Django Heroku .settings locals and then invoke that. So at the very bottom, I've got that those two imports those 2 lines of code. All right. And that should be just about it. But now, because we're deploying to the web, we're not running everything on our local machine. We need to have Heroku know what to install, what like libraries and everything to install when it's going to be, when it deploys our application. So what file do we need that stores all of our
requirements.txt?
Exactly. So we're going to have to do pip freeze requirements.txt. All right, we got our requirements.txt. So just a quick overview. We created a proc file that's on the same level as our manage.py file. It can't be in the same level or in another file. It's got to be on the same level as that manage.py file. We pip installed Gunicorn right there. And we pip installed Django Heroku. And then in our settings.py file, we imported Django Heroku at the very top. And at the very bottom, we ran Django Heroku settings locals. Inside of our proc file, we do web Gunicorn, the name of our Django project, not our Django app, it's our Django project.wsgi. And then we did a pip freeze. So when we deploy this, Heroku will know what to install. The next thing we need to do is touch our git ignore file, because we don't want to import or push up our virtual environment or our Pi cache. I think that's what it is. Where's the Pi cache? Just make sure I spelled it right. Yep. So there we go. So that's everything we have to do in order to prep our Django project for deployment to Heroku.
Are there any environmental variables we would have to create?
Not right now, no. Only if you are using an API and you're storing them as environmental variables. But even then, you really don't have to do anything on here. You don't. All right. So now we can go to the actual Heroku website. Where did my Heroku go? Oh, I'll go Heroku. So here's my Heroku. I've got these 4 apps up and running. Now I'll go over to this new, and you don't have to pay for them anything. I think you get 5 apps per account. You can't store an infinite amount of data on these because there are limits to it. They'll warn you and stuff if you ever reach the maximum database capacity. But I'm just gonna go ahead and create a new app. I'm going to call this an app name. These are unique, so you can't create one that exists in the web. So I'm going to say part-time. No, I'll just say Charlie Wine API. There we go. Oh no, what did it say? Dash. Cool. So that is available. So now I'm just going to go ahead and create app. Now there's a couple different ways we can deploy our app to Heroku. There's the Heroku Git, or do it via the command line, or you can actually connect your GitHub repository to Heroku. So anytime you push to a repo, like when you git add, git commit, git push origin master, when you deploy or when you push up to a specific branch, Heroku is listening to that branch, and whenever new code gets pushed up to that branch, it will automatically kick off a new deploy and will automatically deploy to Heroku. Feel free to look into that, but right now we're just going to use the Heroku command line. So download, install the Heroku command line if you haven't already. Otherwise, we can go ahead and run Heroku Login. So I'm going to open up my terminal, close out these files, and run Heroku Login. It says Heroku, press any key to open up the browser to log in. So I'm just going to press H, opens up, it says login to Heroku CLI. I'm going to click login. I'm already logged in because I'm logged in right here. So you can close this page and return to your command line interface. So I close that out. I'm going to return to my command line and it says opening browser. So that's where it went to. And it's like logging in. Logged in as Preet316. That's my email for this account. So now I can create a new Git repository. So I can CD into my project, but I'm already in my project. So like when it says CD into project, it doesn't mean CD into your Django project directory. It just means going to like the main directory, essentially going to your manage.py file. So I'm just list everything out. I'm in my manage.py file. Great. I'm in my project. So I can get init. So get init. So I'm initializing a new Git repository. All right. So now I can do Heroku git remote, add the Charlie wine. So I'm adding essentially a Git repository on Heroku. I'm pushing this up to Heroku. All right, so set git remote Heroku at this specific location. So let's just see if I go there. All right, you can't really go there. So I set my Git repository to Heroku. Now we can deploy our application. So we should just git add everything to that repo or to that Git repo. Then we can commit. And now we can do git push Heroku master. So I'm just do git add. I'm gonna do git status. All right, those are all the files I'm adding. Git commit -am. I don't know what the AM stands for.
I think it's amend.
All right, initial push to initial push to Heroku. All right, push them. Now I can do git push Heroku master. Git push Heroku master. So now it's reading everything. It's reading the settings. So now it's actually building Heroku 20 stack. That's Python app detected. No Python version was specified. All right, now it's installing Python 3.10. Installing SQLite 3 just as default. But remember, I'm using a Postgres database. So we might have to deal with that because I have to migrate my models as well. So successfully installed Django 4.04. Pressing done, launching, releasing version 5. So it looks like it's deployed to Heroku. Just wait. All right, verifying deploy is done. Great. So now I can either click this URL. I'll go to it directly. And notice how it says page not found. This is a good sign. If it just says like, if there's some like arbitrary Heroku message like application not found, that's bad. Or I can go up here when I'm on Heroku in my Charlie Wine API, and I can click open app. There we go. So now I can go to admin like that. We have our admin. If I wanted to TA Preet 123, it doesn't have that because all that user was located on my local machine. So if I want to open that app again, so if I went to /API/wines, I get programming error, relation wines does not exist. Why doesn't wines exist?
Is that your database problem you're talking about?
Yep. because I deployed this, this isn't no longer on my local machine. It's up on Heroku. So typically we'd have to make migrations and migrate. But when I deployed it, I pushed all this code up. It already has our initial migration script. So I can do two things. I can either create a super user on the Heroku application, or well, I have to do, well, either way, I have to migrate my migration scripts on Heroku. So if I want to run a command on the Heroku app, I first need to log in using the Heroku command line interface, which I already did, but I can do Heroku run. Now I can just do what the typical Django commands. So like Python manage.py migrate. So running Python manage.py migrate on the Charlie Wine API. All right, apply all migrations, admin, etc. Great. So those have added. If I wanted to create a super user, I can just do Heroku run Python manage.py create super user and run through that prompt and everything. But I don't want to do that. So I migrated all those. So now, since I created that database, or since I already ran the migrations and everything, if I click enter, my app's working now. So I'm getting a response back from it. So you all can actually visit this, https charlie-wine-api.herokuapp.com/API/wines and get this response back. But so now we actually have a URL endpoint. And now you all can add, edit, delete, view these APIs or do this, have access to this. So now I'm going to make a post request to Wines, send that. Uh-oh, I got a. Why didn't that work? Oh, /new. There we go. So now there's my first wine in that database. If I do a hard refresh, there's my wine. So y'all can visit that if you want and create wines and edit them. So I just posted that URL endpoint. Oh, the hell. I just posted that. If you want, you can go to new and create wines, edit wines, etc. So that's the whole world can visit that, and now they have that.
If we wanted them to have a API key before they had access to this, would that be a setting on Heroku? Would those keys come from Heroku?
No, that's something you like. Developing your own third-party API with keys and everything is a whole nother thing you have to deal with.
Okay.
So you have to like parse through the URL, make sure they have an API, check API key, take that API key, search through a database to see if that API key exists. If it doesn't, then send being like invalid API key. If it does, then that API key might have some specific permissions to it, and then you're able to do stuff. So yeah, no, that's like a whole nother thing that you'd have to incorporate logic in the back end. All right. So that is there. Y'all can do what you want with it. And that's how you deploy to Heroku. If I wanted to make a change to like the app or something, like, so say, all right, cool, I deployed it, I made a change to it somewhere. For example, maybe my serializers, maybe I don't want the wine ID or something, or I can add another attribute here. Or I don't know what I should add here to my serializer. Maybe it's gonna break everything. I don't want to break everything. Let's see. So yeah, so I had a print statement there. I'm like, oh crap, I should probably get rid of the print statements. So yeah, I'm gonna get rid of that print statement. I'm gonna redeploy this. So in order to redeploy it, I can git add, git commit, git push Heroku master. So git add, git status. So I changed the views, git commit, removed print statement, git push Heroku master. So deploying everything again, it's building, it's got to go through that entire thing. Could take a couple minutes to do that.
Does your virtual environment have to be active when you make another commit or no?
Say that one more time.
Your virtual environment, does it have to be active when you're doing this?
It does not. No. So you can do this. Obviously, when you create your requirements.txt file, you need that to be your virtual environment to be active for that. But otherwise, you can deactivate this whole thing and still run it and all that. So everything is still working. There we go. So, and that is how you deploy it to Heroku. So I'm gonna